Hi everybody, it's Eileen from Now There's a Crafty Idea, and I'm here with a flip through of my sewing journal, which as you can see is quite a chunky one. It is a hardcover, it's a book cover that I used, and I didn't extend the spine, which maybe I should have done a little bit, because yeah, you can see it's very chunky. The back I've left, and it's got pamphlet stitch, and it has a lovely fabric to cover the spine. And the front, I made a book plate to go on the front, and I just made a collage using lots of sewing bits and pieces, some ribbons, some threads, these lovely little vintage book page flowers, buttons, and then a piece of nice antique doily. For the closure, because this one needed a strong closure, I actually punched the front and back, and I've used a sari silk to tie it closed because it does want to spring open. And the let me find my rule. I can't find my normal rule, it's gone missing as usual, but let's see. This one's not going to be much good, but okay. So it is, say, 8 inches by 5.5 inches, so it's a little bit smaller than a general journal, but not much, and it is packed with space and lots of writing space. So I covered the inside of it with some vintage instruction paper from a vintage sewing pattern. I'm getting my words all mixed up. And then I've used this paper. This is the actual sewing tissue that you use to make the pattern pieces, and I've made a few different pieces of it throughout the journal, and it is literally layers and layers of it and then sewn into one sheet. And then I've used that for a pocket, and you can see one of our ladies from our vintage patterns. In fact, I can call these antique patterns because I think antique is 25 years and older, and these were from the 60s. So yeah, they are antique. And then we did some little wooden letters, and I used the sewing tissue paper, pattern paper, and then just decorated it. And that's both of the there's 2 signatures, and both of the signatures have got this lovely scrapbook paper that's kind of got a sewing theme. Now the first belly band has got a lovely little buttons ticket in there, and it's got these lovely vintage buttons on. These are from the 80s, I believe. I found them in my little button jar. And then this is a selection of envelopes, and each one has a journaling card inside of it. And so there's 3 envelopes, and each envelope is also a pocket as well, so that you can put extra ephemera in there. I've used various bits of the patterns just to dot about to decorate the pages. This is a page from a vintage sewing book that I've popped in there, really great journaling space. And then we've used these ladies that you'll see on various tags and bits of ephemera are from a vintage sewing book as well. And so that's our first pocket with a nice velvet trim. And then this paper was made using the antique patterns, and I just glued them over the top of normal paper to make this lovely surface, and it is great, and it's great for journaling on as well. This paper accepts pens and felt tips and pencils, it's great. So lots of lovely journaling space. This is one of our big pockets, and we've got a lovely journaling card and a layaway tag. And all of the journaling cards, well, most of the journaling cards and tags we used making a collage. We used from a collage I made using different parts of the lovely sewing kits. So this is our little file folder flip down. You can, if you want to, you could glue the sides up and have a double pocket, but I've just left them as a flip down. And then there's another piece of that lovely scrapbook paper, and another one of our vintage ladies tags. This is quite a big tag, this one, so lots of journaling space on there. And then we have, this is a pocket, but it's an open pocket, so it's kept together with these lovely little altered paper clips, and then you can open it up and it's extra journaling space, and then when it's closed it's a nice pocket for these 2 tags. So we'll just pop them back in, and then you just close it up and pop the nice little altered paper clips on, and that just keeps the pocket closed. This is again a page from the vintage sewing book, and then we've just got a little tuck using this antique doily, and it's got an old canaster card, that's a vintage canaster card, and another journaling tag, and they just pop in there and sit nicely in there. There are lots of pages in this one. Again, another page from the vintage sewing book. Lots of copy dyed paper in this one, lots of journaling space. This is another pocket using these lovely little buttons and pieces from the antique patterns. These are actually from, this piece is actually from one of the antique packets, and this is actually one of the instruction sheets. A piece of Tim Holtz ephemera, and then this is just a little, it's supposed to be a pin book, but I've turned it into a little envelope, and you can pop stuff in there or you can use it for journaling space, it's up to you. And then there are a couple of printed images on this, and this lovely tape that is like a tape measure, and some more vintage images, nice ruffle, and then we've got a little flip up, and that's got a couple of different cards in. This is one of our cards using the tissue paper. As you can see, it's very fluid, very movable, but it's very nice to journal on. And then we've got this lovely one which is fabric covered, and then this is just a piece of scrapbooking paper, and they all just sit nicely in that little tuck. And then this is a flip out of the actual antique pattern instructions. You can see it is very antique, it's very nicely aged and yellowed, and that's just a nice little added extra. You could journal on it, or you could just leave it as it is. And then in this pocket, this is a lace pocket that I made, and this is a vintage lady's handkerchief, and it's never been used, it's never been out the packet. As you can see, it's a nice little bit of embroidered handkerchief, and then a piece of ephemera that I made. And if you look inside, it's got some pieces of coffee dyed paper, but you could put other things in there if you wanted, and then that just fits there. And then this is just a journaling card made out of I can't remember the name for them, it'll come to me, and that is just popped into this pocket, and a nice doily. And then this is the first of our 2 envelopes, and these are made from paper from the vintage sewing book, and I've just made them into envelopes, and they've got some coffee dyed paper in there. And then again, these are held on with these lovely little altered paper clips, and these are the same flowers that are on the cover of the book. And then this is just a fold of a page at the back of the signature, and it's got another couple of journal tags, and this one again is that lovely paper journal cards, sorry, and they just slot in there. And the second signature, again, as you can see, that I've used the same card for both, and you can see I've used different trims on them. Again, these antique buttons I think were from the 70s, and this is just a page with 3 different pockets on, and each one has a nice little journaling card in it, and the cards are all nicely decorated, and they're using the nice pattern tissue to pattern paper that I made. And then again, another digital image, and another page from the vintage sewing book. Here's another one of our lovely needle books, which is like a little envelope, and again another one of those tags using the pattern tissue, and it's like several layers of the pattern tissue, so it's nice, it's got a lovely texture. Digital image. And here's another big pocket using this lovely scrapbook paper, which is quite textural. A lovely journaling card and a layaway tag, and they just sit nicely in there. And then the other page to the vintage book, and this is a full page made using the tissue, and as you can see, it's very fluid and it's really great for writing on, and there's about several layers, and it's all sewn together to keep it nice and steady. This is an antique sewing pattern envelope, and I've just strengthened it up the sides, and then I've added on as a flip out, so it actually flips out, and inside there is a nice little journaling card, and that just sits inside. And I have also reinforced the top of the envelope, and that gives you a nice little hidden journaling space there as well. And then we've got a nice little flip up, and that one's got several more, and this is a lovely one using some nice little shell buttons, mother of pearl buttons, and then again a nice fabric tag and a scrapbook paper tag. And this is a flip out so that you've got extra journaling space, and another flip out with extra journaling space. And then this is another pocket using the antique doily, and I've just popped in a few little bits of ephemera, again one of these lovely tags, a journaling card, and this is a piece that I found in the British Royal Library, and it's from an antique French fashion book, and you can see it's like an image of a design and the different fabrics that they were going to use, and I've just backed that with coffee dyed paper, and they just all sit in here together. Oops. Like that. And then again another piece of that lovely vintage 70s sewing book, and I made a fabric flip, and it's just hand sewn, hand embroidered with the word sew on it, and then obviously that's a nice fabric flip using some nice different fabrics. And then we have a nice lace pocket, as you can see, it's lovely, and it's sewn onto the page, and it's got one of our vintage ladies in with the mother of pearl buttons again. And then this is a piece of packaging that came with some ribbons that I bought, and I've just backed it with coffee dyed paper and popped it in here. This again is one of our file folder flip downs, and then another of the fabric journaling cards, and another one with our ladies on from the sewing book, and they all sit in nicely there. And then this is two little envelopes, and they are filled with nice little journal cards, and they are also a nice little tuck spot, and I've just popped in these little thread card things just to show you that it's a nice little pocket. This is the other side of our pattern page, and I've just sewn on a little piece of fabric in the shape of a heart. And then another one of our envelopes. It's exactly the same as the other one, and it's held on with the nice little this one's a music paper, a vintage music paper flower, and that's on the other side of that lovely book page. And then lots and lots of journaling space. Another one of the digital images, but I've printed it over the top of some of the pattern instructions, and it's just given it such a lovely kind of, I don't know, just a really vintagey look. It's gone lovely. This is a piece of fabric that I've put some of the tape ribbon on, and again another pocket with buttons, and then another of the printed images, which is an image of a fashion magazine. And then in the back page is this lovely lady on one of these lovely pattern paper pages. And then in the back, the very back, is this envelope. Now this is a writing board, because as you can see it's a very chunky journal, and if you were worrying about being able to write on it, don't, because this is a writing board, so you can journal on top of it, and it'll stop it from having a problem, because it is a very, very big book. And then inside this, to make it a writing board, this is actually a pattern envelope that I printed. I scanned it digitally and then I printed it, and I've sewn around it for closure, and then I've just popped inside, if it'll come out, these are just a couple of pieces of scrapbook card that you can journal on, but when you put them together in the envelope, it makes such a lovely sturdy writing board that you can use to write on, and then you just keep that in the back, so that when you want to write on it, you just pick it up and pop it on. And then again, there we have the back. So it's a big chunky one, and she has got lots of pages to fill and lots of journaling space. and I hope that you've enjoyed that flip through. I'm going to pop her on Etsy, so by the time this video is uploaded, she'll already be on Etsy. And I hope you've enjoyed that. Hope you like her, and thank you for watching along, and happy crafting. Bye.